Hello and welcome to another episode of Seven and Laces Comic Stash, and we are back in the realm of Dream as we continue our long-ass adventure into the Sandman universe. As we are
It
at
was
trade.
odd. I know you said long, like when we were reading this one, and to jump the gun, I believe you're just about to say Trade 4 Seasons of Mist.
Yes,
But we're kind of this takes up to the end of issue 28, doesn't it? And
yes,
um, it feels like so many more issues in that, doesn't it? I think from what we've done and the episodes on the channel, I've got a playlist for our adventures in Sandman. I didn't call it that, but let's go with that. But I think we said this in all the others is that no matter how few or I think first couple of trades are sort of like 8-9 issues, but it always feels at the end of it like you've read more the issues than you actually have, just because of the pure amount of I guess content that we get
yeah.
within. But I guess I'm jumping ahead a little bit there and suggesting that this might be the same. This one might be the one that's like a pamphlet, but we'll get to that, I'm sure.
um, so before we wander our way through Trade 4 of the Realm of Dreams, should we discuss what we've been reading this week?
Hell
Let's get in our
yeah.
reading corners.
Happiness is just around the corner.
Go.
So,
That was new. Never done that before. Liked it. Staying. It's a regular feature. Go. Speak. You
So
can only
obviously after
describe it
my
in one word. Go.
after my drought that I had for a little bit,
It was. It was a
reading
barren wasteland for you there for a little while, wasn't it?
it was so reading Sandman really did kick my ass into going. Oh, I like comics again. Um, so I smashed through season 2 of Batman: The Adventure Continues, which is more of the modern run set from the animated series. This is season 2 is 7 issues, a much more compact story than the other ones, where the other ones were like you'd have a couple of issues of one story, one single, things like that. There's an overall that goes across the whole
Oh, I'm
thing.
glad you said it because I was going to ask that. I was going to say, is there like a TV season or what we've obviously become to
Yeah,
know TV seasons these days? Is there like an overarching story to or plot to each season?
yeah. So it starts with some Deadshot, and Deathstroke is there as well, and that sort of is sort of standalone. But there's a few little bits that sit in there that then pay off further down. Um, but what was interesting is it has a lot more in Penguin in this one, and Mad Hatter,
Ooh.
which pleased me. But yeah,
Especially like not just Mad Hatter, obviously your man crush, but coming off the back of One Bad Day and getting such a good experience with that Penguin one shot, it must have been a real treat to get more Penguin in your life.
yes. So Penguin not with this one. Penguin's not the antagonist as such, but he has his beady little fingers in everyone else's stuff, and they use the Iceberg Lounge for a lot of other evils working their way through it. But again, this was a much better read than season 1. Um, season 3 is on Ultra, but they're only like
Yeah, I did
four
see that
issues
there's
up so far. So
I
I'm going
did
to leave
see
it
there's
till a whole lot of that's up before I.
a season 3, so I presume probably it's that age old thing of while people are still buying it, they're going to keep making it. Much like I guess with the animated, well, people were watching it, and while Warner had a budget to
Yeah.
do it, then they'll keep on making it.
So yeah, I will jump back into season 3 once it's all up.
Because Paul Dini is on the writing, isn't he? But it's him and someone, isn't it? Is it Alan Burnett?
Yes.
So I wasn't sure like how much Paul Dini was involved or whether he was kind of there as a consultant because of the TV show or not. But yeah, I don't know. It does interest me. I'll be honest. I know you sort of when you got to also when you read season 1, it's probably a little bit. I don't know. I still feel a little bit burnt by Batman '89 to be honest. I've yet to go back to spin-offs of movies or TVs or follow-ons, should I say, rather than
Yeah.
spin-offs. But I don't know. Having Paul Dini involved does tempt me and tease me a little bit, and I quite like the animated renditions or the animated concepts for some of the villains, and also I think because it's out of continuity or out of main continuity, and in this continuity, I always feel like it gives them a little bit more free license to do some things that you possibly wouldn't do in the main series.
Yeah,
But yeah, I will softly add it to my long list.
yeah. As I said, it is one of those of for me because it is its own thing. It is all standalone. It's basically Dini coming back, going, "Here's some more Batman stories that I'd like to have
Yeah.
told when we had the TV series," but also got 20, 30 years on that, so you can use characters that are new.
Yeah.
It's like we get Nightwing. Jason is there as well as Red Hood. You've got Aaron or Damien as Robin in this as well. So it's sort of
Big Damo.
taking where we are in modern terms of
Yeah.
where Batman is, but playing still in that animated time frame and with that look as well. So yeah, it is a fun little thing, and it's as I said it's
I mean,
on its own.
my major kind of experience with things like this is oh god, it's going back a long time now. I can't even remember how long ago it was, but at a certain point they continued Buffy in comic books, and Joss Whedon come back, and I did tail off on it after a while, but I think it was a bit of a tailing off with reading comics, but it was really nice because I did think I'll never get to see what would have come next. And yeah, I know in some properties and in some TV shows, some movies, that's for the best because they actually have tied everything off with a nice bow. But sometimes I think it's nice to come back, and especially when you can see what the creative team wanted to do next. I think that's key for me. I think I like it a lot less when there's no one who was involved with the show coming back to it, because then it's almost in the nicest possible way. It'd be like you and me going, "Oh, let's fanboy right what happened next."
Yeah,
Interesting for us, but probably not interesting for the wider audience because yeah, you want to know what the original creators were going to do with it.
yeah, and it's the thing. It is that sort of thing of like if you were watching it back then and you have the affiliation to it, it's nice just to even just see the art style again and
Yeah,
the way that it's drawn and done. You get those nostalgic feels, and it's just like doesn't need to have anything else to do with anything else. It can sit there on its own, and it's just like
just waiting for them to introduce in their comic the next Harley Quinn. And when I say the next Harley Quinn, not like Harley Quinn 2, but have another concept like that ultimately gets ripped into the main DC universe as well, because obviously they've got it in their locker. I was just looking at Alan Burnett to see what was about him, and makes sense that he's working on this with Paul Dini. He's been a producer on pretty much every DC animated project there's been since Super Friends, so pretty much every DC animated project ever. So obviously must have been massively involved in the original animated series as well. So yeah, it really is the core
brain
creative
trust.
teams, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what have you been up to?
Well, you said like about Burnout. I have just finished what I would refer to as a bit of a monster read. So much so that there was almost a week's break within it because I was feeling a bit of burnout. I've just finished Absolute Carnage. Now, the version of it I was reading had every single one of the spin-offs in it and a couple of bits preceding it. So I've been reading the Donny Cates Venom run, and kind of I got to this part of the story. So I went, oh, I will read this, all the tie-ins, and then there's a few series that I hadn't been reading that had tie-in issues, so I got a little bit caught up with that. But for the kind of big Absolute Carnage story, it's about 32 issues, and it's a shame because I think there is a really good story in here. I think if you just read the Absolute Carnage main series, which is 5 issues, and the Venom series that's going alongside it, which I think 4 or 5 of those were directly linked, and then couple of the Spider-Man issues, I think you've probably got quite a nice, tight, interesting story. You add in the other 20 odd spin-offs, and one thing I'll say about it, so the premise is that, and this was set up early on in the Venom series, that there is this kind of uber symbiote or the god of symbiotes called Null, and that's set up very early on in this. And this story kind of picks up in Carnage being resurrected, because he's been kind of dead in the Marvel universe at this point, but he's resurrected with the intent of bringing Null back. And to bring Null back, he needs to, let's say, absorb as many symbiotes as possible. And there's a whole kind of new introduction of this concept of codexes and codices of symbiotes. So if they all pull into this hive mind, it gives him enough power and enough strength. So Carnage is pretty much kind of ripping around, and why there's so many spin-offs is he's ripping around the Marvel universe, attacking but attacking ones that exist, but also attacking people who have ever had a symbiote on them. And over the years of publishing, they've got very, very tempted to do that to pretty much everyone at this point. You know, there's kind of this, I would say, on anyone who's ever had Venom on them, or Carnage, or any of them, there's kind of a little bit left behind. So that is the bulk of it. It's him, and as he goes, he's starting to kind of build this mindless symbiote army that kind of comes along with him. So then you can do lots of fights and lots of exciting things and stuff like that. It just gets a little bit too much. I think partially for me, because a lot of those symbiote spin-off characters I've had no dealings with, because they've been maybe in series that I haven't read, or I've shied away from, because I went, oh, here we go again, another one. And I think partially one of the reasons why they did it as well is it did give him a bit of a chance to cull the side characters a bit. Yeah. You know, like there are some that at the end of this aren't anymore, be it through death, or be it through basically it's that they don't have one attached to them anymore. So it did allow, I guess, for a bit of a refresh of that. But the core story, as I say, I think it's interesting, and it moves along this idea of this ultimate uber power. So Carnage is wrecking so many people. He's shown as massively powerful here, but all the way through it, you know that he isn't as powerful as what is to come. So I think it's almost that nice layer of going, watch him kick the crap out of everyone, whilst knowing that this isn't going to be the end and something worse is coming. So that peril kind of gets built up more. Another character that used a bit in the Venom series is the Maker, who is Reed Richards from the Ultimate Universe. A character I quite like, an evil Reed Richards. And he starts to get somewhat integrated in this. And I think probably becomes unintegrated, because by the end of the story, I feel like his path is probably more the wider universe. You find out kind of what some of his ultimate machinations and goals are, and I think that may pay off somewhere else. Venom goes through an arc where we've been introduced to his son earlier in it, but ultimately in this arc he has a choice, and it's quite a hard choice, and it is either save the world or save his son, and he chooses his son. So when we actually leave the story, Venom, or Eddie, is aware that Null has escaped and is coming to Earth, whereas no one else is, because he doesn't tell anyone else that bit of it. He just kind of goes, "Oh, I went a bit to that." Like, but yeah, you know, there's a lot of kind of superhero fare, villain fare. There's a large plot point around Norman Osborn, which, unbeknownst to me, I did read the sort of tail end of this, but Norman Osborn at this point thinks that he's Cletus Cassidy. So there is a storyline towards the end of Dan Slott's Amazing Spider-Man run where he becomes the Red Goblin. Basically, he takes on Carnage's symbiote. But during all of that, he actually thinks he's that. And there's some resolution with that, which I think is going to tail off and go into the Spider-Man series. But yeah, I would say it is good. I think you would like a lot of it, 'cause I think you vibe with some of that symbiote stuff more than I do. I think you'd have a good time with it. But I would say approach a lot of the spin-offs cautiously. A lot of them feel not necessary to the main story, but I do think they play off old stories. So some of the aged Venom limited series like Lethal Protector and things like that. A lot of these are follow-ups to other material. So I think if you've always been a Venom fan and really into all of the lore, I think there's a lot there for you. But I would say for me, who's only really been following this Donny Cates run, there's a lot of unnecessary gumph in there.
Yeah, it sounds like there is a really decent story in there, but it fanboys a bit too much to just jump around and, oh, that one time that Captain America had a bit of Venom DNA on him.
Oh, and there's a lot of that.
Here,
Yeah.
and
yeah,
that one time that Thor had something, and we're back here. In that 2-issue run back in like the mid-90s that no one remembers.
I guess to give you a heads up, so you've got Absolute Carnage, Venom, and Amazing Spider-Man, as I say, that are probably very, very key to it. But you've also got, and some of these are single issues, some of these are 3 issues. You've got Absolute Carnage, Symbiote, Spider-Man, Absolute Carnage, Weapon Plus, Absolute Carnage, Symbiote of Vengeance, Absolute Carnage, Separation Anxiety, Absolute Carnage, Scream, Absolute Carnage, Lethal Protectors, Absolute Carnage versus Deadpool, Absolute Carnage, Captain Marvel, Absolute Carnage, Miles Morales, Absolute Carnage, Avengers, Absolute Carnage, Immortal Hulk, and then at the end of it, there's Scream: The Curse of Carnage. So there's a lot, but also I will say the main story has is Donny Cates. He's writing both the Venom and the Absolute Carnage bit, and a lot of these they have. I'd say good creative teams and creative teams that have tended to write stuff before, but yeah, there's a lot of do you remember that time? And a lot. I think the things that put me off him originally is not a lot of storyline behind it. Just wouldn't it be cool if we put a Venom on the Hulk?
Yeah,
and they go, no, do you remember that time we did that cool thing where we put a Venom on the Hulk? Da-da, here we are again, that sort of thing. But fanboy kind of play off. But yeah, there's some good stuff in there. I would say if there's one spin-off that I really liked, that probably did what I think a good spin-off does, is further the story a little bit, but get you really, really interested in what's going on in the other series, and was the Immortal Hulk one. Now, bearing in mind, we're both reading Immortal Hulk, same creative team, so they're on to a bit of a winner, but that was fantastic because that really did lean into what's going on in the Hulk as well. And I think if I hadn't been reading Hulk, it's the one that I'd have jumped on after this and gone, wow, I need to be reading the Hulk.
But yeah, I think that might be one for when I've not got other little bits that I'm ongoing at the minute, but that may be...
I almost considered not talking about it, because I almost considered, when I was going into it, I thought, if this is really good, I might get you to read it and we'll do it as a show. But I think it's quite a way down the line, because I think there's a lot of stuff that happens before this that you probably want to read. So I figured it's not the sort of event where I think we could do it as a one-off, because really I think it's as big an event as it is in size. I think it's almost a mid-event. I think it's after the start of Venom. It's the one in the middle that ultimately gets you to the thing that will be the premiere big event at the end of this run. So yeah, probably not conducive to a show. Although if you ever do it, well, I guess we can try. But God, see how long we're going to take talking about 7 or 8 issues of Sandman. Imagine us trying to get through 31 issues or something.
So shall we begin Seasons in the Mist?
Yes. Right, before we go into the story, it was something I was thinking about just before we started recording. This has a kind of plethora of artists on it, doesn't it? There's rotation throughout this story, and I only wanted to pick up on it as a side note, because I fear that we'll probably get wrapped. Sandman stuff's generally very story heavy, so I feel we'll kind of get wrapped up in stuff that actually happened and our thoughts and feelings on it. And sometimes I think that the art can be missed in it. But one thing that really struck me about this is that with this rotating cast of artists, and really talented artists, and I think generally what I'm about to say would be considered an insult to an artist, but the thing I loved about this is that it's never noticeable for me. There's never a point throughout this where I kind of go, up, the art's dramatically gone down or up. I think they managed to keep, even with their own unique ways of drawing things, the style very similar. I never felt ripped out of this with the style, or I never felt the pull of an artist change, either for a positive or a negative. But yeah, I just figured as we go through it, it might be something that I lose track of. But I just kind of wanted to go bravo to them for as a creative team to be able to, yeah, never pull me out of it, never make me go, oh, that's changed from panel to panel or issue to issue.
I didn't even realize that it was different artists. It's one of
Oh,
those
there
of,
you go, boom,
it-
advert. There you go, yeah.
you know, I guess everyone in Sandman has such a unique look anyway that just if you're drawing Dream, he's always going to look like Dream. If you do
Yeah.
Death, either they do old school Death or her as the sort of proto 80s new wave punk. There's the two looks, So I
I mean,
did notice there was some bits that you were a lot more gorier than others that I've seen in
Well,
Sandman.
predominantly
so
it's
far.
Pence and like Kelly Jones, Mike Dringberg, and Matt Wagner, and I think you get quite a few rotations on the Incas and things like that. And I think why it probably stands out for me is having been such a long-standing, month by month sequential kind of guy.
Mm,
The guest artist or the change of artist normally is as I say, one side or the other normally very jarring. You kind of go, whoa, this isn't what I was looking at. But yeah, I think again a testament to how they managed to do it is the fact that you didn't notice. I think that's brilliant.
Yeah.
But I wanted to kind of flag that because I don't want it to seem like an insult, because
Mm.
I think they're all great. But I think to be able to in a singular story, albeit with probably kind of one spin-off issue, which we'll get to, but to be able to keep that style going is it's quite a feat, I think.
Yeah, it's if we go back to when we did Nightfall, we
Oh
could
god, yeah.
tell how obvious it was when you went from one
Yeah.
creative team to another and art style to
yeah.
another. As I said, but this,
I mean, that's one of the prime examples for me for jarring.
Yeah.
Probably because it was like from one bad art team to another bad art team, but yeah, that was horrifically jarring. But this, no, not in the slightest for me.
so we will begin at the beginning, which is issue 21, which is our prologue,
The prologue.
Seasons of Mist, where we see the family all together for the first time, where we see Desire, Destiny, Despair, Delirium, Death, and Dream all together as they've been called for a family meeting.
Yeah, Destiny has a meetup, doesn't he? Or he calls the meetup based off of his discussion with the Grey Ladies, who whisper something to him that us as the audience don't know, and this predicates this real need for the family to get together. And the kind of, I guess, the plot of this whole arc jumps off of this, but really good, isn't it? Like, really good.
Mhm.
Even if you forget about like the plot having to jump off of this, it's really nice to see them all together, because we've only seen them in snippets so far, haven't we? Normally a singular interaction, so normally only interacting with Dream, or interacting as a two on one, sort of one-on-one.
Yeah.
Never have we seen this what I would now like to call, after reading this issue, very dysfunctional family interact with each other.
And say, because so far we've only seen Desire, Death, and Dream. We've
Yeah.
not seen any of the others. Obviously, they've said they've been all called to the meeting after Destiny and his book found the three sisters, the Grey Ladies, as he calls them, the old hags as they were when Dream met them back in a very first trade,
Yeah.
as he was trying to get the realm back.
And spoilers abound here. This story has a lot of callbacks, doesn't it? To earlier Sandman lore. We do get to tiptoe and see other things, but I thought that was quite interesting to go. Everything that's come before is part of this, and maybe if I remember, we might pick up kind of the three witches, the Grey Ladies, and their role in the wider it at the end, because very intriguing that this starts off with them for me.
Yeah. What I really liked about this issue is the little section where we get mini profiles of
Yes.
the
Yep.
family, sort of explaining who's who, why they're there, what they look like.
All text based as well, isn't it? You
Yeah.
get a sort of kind of a visual, and then text kind of running over the top of that visual, giving you. I was trying to wheedle in a. Remember when Matt Hardy version 2.0 come on like in WWF all those years ago? It was almost like Matt Fax, wasn't it? Like.
My favorite one was the one for Death, which just literally said, "And then there was Death,"
Yeah, yeah.
and it's like, ah, yes.
But the way they put it into it, as you say, it fleshes out extra character story material, but without feeling like a cheap plot device, doesn't it? It doesn't feel like, oh shit, we run out of pages, let's chuck that in. It feels like it was by design to get you to where you need to be. Even I think to a degree, if you're worried that your audience coming in might even just struggle on the concept of death, despair, delirium, and as a conceptual thing, it even goes to that level.
But it's the thing with this is, as I said, because we've only ever seen 3 of the Endless so far. The fact that they do even tell you about Desire, Death, and Dream again isn't one of those of, oh, here are these people that we've sort of skirted around that you know that they're there, but you don't know who they are. Here's them. But you now know what these characters and who these characters are, because I guarantee we don't see them in this trade, but the rest of the Endless are going to be about in other trades going forward. I guarantee that without having read the.
Oh yeah. That's certainly my feeling, is that ultimately this is the story of Dream, but of the Endless, and that's going to be a whacking great part of what's to come.
Yeah,
and for anyone who's watching this who's read the rest, who knows that isn't the case, and that it turns into a romantic comedy after this, you can giggle to yourselves.
But it was great, just sort of, especially with when they were having the meal, how the panels are done. Each of them has their own text font. They all had their own
I love that as well.
Speech bubbles as well, and things like that. And I was just like, I could sit here and read 100 pages of just them at a family meal bickering to each other.
It abounds throughout this as well, because it's not just the Endless they do this with. They do this with like numerous characters. But I'm really glad you mentioned that kind of change of font per character, and also just little touches, like because they have their own individual font, you notice if something's done with the font. So when, for example, Dream is shouting or raising his voice, they just go bolder and thicker on the font, and you just go, I know he's raising his voice. Such simple, or on paper, such simple storytelling techniques, but I not done as often as this or as smartly as this in a lot of other stuff you'll read.
So during the family meeting, it is made clear to Dream that he did a bad thing sending Nana to hell for thousands of years.
Desire can't help but having a needle at her brother, can she?
No.
And very much, you said like you could sit and read probably 100-issue series of these guys around a table talking. I'm somewhat with you, and I think one of the things that makes that so comforting is they are these ethereal celestial beings that we will see, and we have seen up until now with Dream, that ability to achieve and make decisions that are on a grander scale than probably we deal with on a day-to-day. However, they also are
fallible,
petty, spiteful, all of those kind of emotional core things, but probably manifesting more when they're brought together as a family, which, who well, I say who hasn't, I guess people who haven't gone to a family dinner, but that's the sort of thing that happens. Like you're probably meaner and shittier to your family than you will many other people, because that bond is ultimately going to keep you together, so you push the boundaries a bit more, and certainly I saw in that Desire, Dream, and we've seen it previously, certainly coming off the needle that already exists between the two of them. It's all kind of passive aggressively pleasant at first, isn't it? until those kind of gloves come off and go, well, I'm not going to start a fist fight with you, but I'm going to be a dick to you, and let's see how aggy I can make you.
And Desire, in her way of manipulating things that she does, makes Dream realize that he was a dickhead and he should go and apologize and make good for the terrible thing that he did.
Ooh, I loved what they did with this bit though, didn't they? Because it starts escalating, doesn't it? Where it gets a bit rowdy, and then Destiny kind of goes, no, not here, and Dream takes himself out to cool down, and Death, who we've seen as very much linked to Dream, you know, lovely issues with them of them being the close siblings, but it's Death, isn't it, who says, very much paraphrasing here, but Desire shouldn't have done that. But she's right, you're a dick. You did a really
Yeah.
bad, selfish thing that you shouldn't have done, that was really horrible. And that's on you. And I think it's that really makes Dream kind of take it on board. He probably knew it from what Desire was saying, has probably always known it. But I think it was when the sibling that probably more naturally
He
had his
listens
back.
to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's more shameful to him at that point when the one who's likely to be the nicest to him says, "No, you were horrible."
So Dream decides that he needs to go to hell to right his
Oh
wrongs.
yeah, hell, the place that we've seen previously that he went to, where Lucifer said, "Come back here, mate, and I'll destroy you." So
Yes.
he knows to right his wrong, he's going to have to go to a place that he has, let's go with, abused a bit recently, and is reluctant to go to. And of course, sort of surrounding this, like when the family are called together, they're all very curious, aren't they? They're going, "Why am I here? Why have you brought us here, Destiny?" And Destiny sort of says, like, I've been told that we have to be here because there are events coming, and actually you coming here is going to be what triggers it. So it's almost that, I guess, the archetypal thing around Destiny of going, was that predestined to happen? If he hadn't called them together, will what happens next ever have happened, or would it have happened anyway? And should it happen? And ultimately, is that for the greater good? But I like how they come back at the end of the issue to kind of pick up on that, and he just goes, "It's begun." So, and that's why I said about my where I'm really interested in the Grey Ladies and the witches and the role they play in this, because we see like the Endless as these celestial beings. We'll get onto some more gods and pantheons in a minute, but certainly with Lucifer, we've seen like him as this all powerful being, but and the fact that Desire is using her way to manipulate things. But this isn't the first time that they have insinuated themselves in the story and been the trigger for what is to come. And I do wonder, and it's only I do wonder whether, like, I don't know, they almost feel like the power behind the throne, the people who are making either the bad or good stuff, and I guess we'll know by the end of it what that is happening, and maybe to a degree, the Endless are sometimes puppets in their game rather than. Bearing in mind, one of them's Destiny, he felt like a puppet for them rather than being in charge of Destiny itself.
Yeah, and there's also that call in there where he's sort of speaking about the book, where he then goes, I read the book, and then in the Book of Destiny that, says all things, that he knew that he would meet the Grey Ladies and they would tell him this secret that would then begin this journey. And it's just like, so does he actually know everything? And they're not really the pawns, but they needed to be there for him to then call that meeting, but it's already predestined that it's going to happen.
It's almost, you could kind of spiral, couldn't you, in the same way as if you're watching a time travel movie and you're going, well, actually, but if they didn't go back in time, would that have happened? And then would that have happened? And would that have happened? And I think when you're tinkering in the world of destiny and predetermination, that's where it gets quite tricky, isn't it? Of going, well, who is the trigger here? Who is the catalyst? Although we'll come back to it at the end, because I have a bigger theory on who the catalyst is. But
so that takes us into the next issue, where
It didn't feel like a prologue either, did it? I understand
No.
why it's a prologue, and I love it being there, but it felt so kind of essential. It did feel like part one of what we get, but yeah,
But if you've seen what we've had so far with all the trades, there's usually a prologue that is very heavy in story, then starts everything off.
yeah,
And there will always be the epilogue at the
epilogue,
end as
yeah.
well. That
Yeah, I mean, it's a lovely kind of bookmarking, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah,
but stuff doesn't finish in the issue beforehand. It still goes into the epilogue and
yeah,
neatens itself up there. I think it's just how Gaiman likes to set his
Yeah.
runs.
I guess because like ultimately a lot of people will know him for authoring books, and it does feel a lot more like chapter structures, doesn't it, in a
Yeah.
novel more than anything else.
So going to issue 22, and Dream has a meeting with all of his the Dream Realm,
Yes.
and lets them all know that he needs to go to hell, and to make sure that the realm doesn't fall apart, tells them all that they must keep their up to what their job should be doing, and he will not have a redo of what happened last time.
I loved it, by the way. I loved exactly that as a concept, because you could have just not, well, I say you could have not done this issue. You could have done this issue in a couple of panels, couldn't you? Like you could have just gone up, right, all right, lads, I'm off to hell. Here's the keys, don't mess it up. But because the first, let's say, sort of 10 issues of this series is all about what happened to the Dreaming last time he wasn't there, I just thought, yeah, of course, like this is so fresh in his mind, and he's potentially going somewhere. He says it himself, I'm going to hell. This is what I'm going to do. I don't
may
think
not come
I may
back.
be I may be some time. And going, learning my lessons, and I think this is a big smart thing of this whole series is the characters evolving and learning from things that happened before, of going, I can't have the same mess again. I have to entrust to a degree you guys to be able to maintain some of this self. Of course, there is intimations of, and if I don't come back, there will be a successor, which is quite interesting to kind of layer that stuff in. But that there is a lot of responsibility to you, like, don't mess this up. Yeah, just the sort of touches that, and that I don't think you get in a lot of stories. I think
Yeah.
this is the sort of stuff we're going to talk about this throughout, where I'm becoming a fully paid up member of, like, Sandman being this amazing comic book run. And these are the sort of things that make it amazing for me, that care for detail, that consideration of the story, and taking the time to do these things that others wouldn't. But also, whilst I say taking the time to do these, allowing us to jump back into and see more of Kane, more of Lita Hall, more of Matthew the Raven. So your
Lucian.
side characters, that you're kind of people who might not get so much screen time, and naturally given more screen time because they need to have those interactions to push forward this part of the story.
Yeah. He also goes off to meet Hippolea and Hob.
Oh yeah, yes, Hub solo
obviously-
series coming soon,
Yes.
hopefully.
Obviously meets up with Hob, telling them that he may not be there for their next scheduled meeting, so he'd meet him early, and brought him some good wine.
Yes. Yeah, and like things like that. Another thing that he didn't get to do last time, isn't it? Like that
Yeah.
was, we had a whole issue sort of dedicated to that concept of him not being able to make that commitment. And when I say commitment, also commitment to himself, like the friendship that he's built with Hob over the years, and not wanting to, knowing that there was peril, and this is obviously a massive part of this issue, isn't it? Is building up the threat that Dream feels, or Morpheus feels, going to face Lucifer. He knows it's not going to be easy. He knows it's going to be bad, and this is how he deals with it. Setting his affairs in order, I guess. Probably akin to if someone was heading off to war, like in our world. That making sure you said your goodbyes and told everyone you love them because you might never come back.
and then Dream makes his way off to hell.
To fight.
So that is pretty much everything that goes on in that issue.
Fantastic issue, by the way.
Fucking love this.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
as you said, this could have been in a lesser writer or a lesser creator's hand, or in any sort of lesser style of publication, 2 or 3 pages for this whole 24 pages of
Yeah.
just, he has a meeting, he meets up with this person, meets up with that person, says his things, and we're off.
Yeah.
But the detail and the care, and you see that Morpheus, even though he comes across as, you know, above everyone and cares not
Aloof,
about
yeah.
anything and aloof, he actually does give a fuck about Matthew and
Yeah.
Lucian and everyone in the dream. He doesn't want the realm to fall. You know, the going and meeting with Hob, the going and meeting with Hippolyta, doing these things that he feels that he needs to do, and his duty to do them because he doesn't want it to not be done, or it to, if something was to happen, for those people, especially like Hippolyta and Hobbs' perspective, for them to feel that something's gone wrong
Yeah.
for on them, not because of, you know, Dream just has disappeared into the ether. But yeah, this
Oh, and I think partially a bit
Loved
of
it.
you know, we said about that going to war. In that saying, making it clear to people where he's going, and I felt it was almost like, and don't come. Like if this goes wrong, don't come and find me. Like
leave me.
you know, what you talked about him accepting in the last issue that this is his responsibility. Out of his anger, his pride, his spite, he sent Nada to hell for 10,000 years. That actually he has to do this, and what he doesn't want is he doesn't want his friends, his loved ones, his families then feeling bound to then having to save him if it goes wrong. He's basically just saying, no, this was my bad. I'm going to go and sort it. But if it goes wrong, don't worry about me. I kind of deserve it if it does go wrong. And yeah, just smart, just lovely, like lovely to read. What a hero would do.
Exactly. So into the next issue, and Dream gets to hell to find it's all very quiet.
It's all gone quiet over there. It's all gone quiet over there.
As Lucifer has resigned and is
So
closing down hell.
it's I mean we start off, don't we, and I think this is the issue where probably any of the artists who are involved in this series have some wonderful moments, but I'm sure they must kind of fight over doing the hell issues, because you get to almost reinvent it every time and just be massively creative, and you get like a kind of lot of opening pages, don't you, of like what a gates of hell might look like. And he initially kind of goes, this is a bit easy. Oh, maybe kind of Lucifer's gone, don't worry about it. And he goes to the cell where Nada would be, doesn't he? And then she's not there, and he kind of goes, no one else seems to be here. And yeah, as you say, the confrontation with Lucifer happens, and rather than being the perilous fist fight that might have been intimated in the last 2 issues, instead it is a conversation, isn't it? And it's a conversation where Lucifer just goes, do you know what? I've been at this for a very long time. When I first come down here, I was propelled down here. I rebelled against God, and this was kind of my role to play. But in the infinite amount of time since then, I've kind of done it all. Thanks. Like, see you later.
Yeah.
Don't really want to do this anymore. That's just wonderful, isn't it? Absolutely wonderful as a concept.
Yeah, it was all very much that sort of thing of, see, when Lucifer goes through his reasoning, and it's I'm pissed off when I got thrown out of heaven. How dare I? So I made this place. I made it at all. I did that, and then humanity decided that this is what hell is, and they should be tortured, they should be punished, and it should be rivers of fire and eternal pain. I didn't want that. I didn't want that to be eternal pain. I didn't want this to be what it became, and I'm tired of it. I'm tired of running this place. So we meet Breshau, who is a cunt, being tortured in hell, and we get regaled with his cunty ways of what he used to do when he was alive, with eating babies, cutting babies out of or unborn babies out and eating them, forcing others to eat entrails out.
Cutting the noses off of people he's having an affair with if they dared look at another person.
Yeah, yeah, he was an absolute fucker. And he's insistent that he should stay in hell because he deserves the punishment for everything that he had done. And that, for many years he was a cautionary tale of what people would say, you should not do this because if you do, he'll get you. In that sort of
You don't want to be
boogeyman
like him.
way.
He's a right prick. Yeah.
Yeah. But Lucifer's like, no, we're closing it all down. You've done your punishment. No one even remembers who you are or cares about you anymore. Be
I think
gone.
that's just such a key part of it as well. Like, I know we were picking up on Lucifer's discussion around like his rebellious ways, his fall from heaven, etc., etc., etc. And I know he kind of picks up on this thought of going, almost did I rebel? And or was this going back to something we were talking about earlier? Was this predestination? Was this part of the Creator's plan, like God's plan in for the purpose of this part of it? And the idea of people having to serve penance and punishment for these things, and him going, well, like, I don't really ask them to, it's what they want. And I think it just hits so hard in this scene because yes, you have this person outlaying why he has to be there. He has to pay for this plethora of horrific things that he's done, and Lucifer's quite offhand with it, isn't he? He pretty much just goes, no one has even heard of the place you are from anymore, let alone who you are. No one cares. Not saying the things that you didn't do weren't bad. No one cares. And you almost see this deflation in him, don't you? Like this, it was almost like he was getting as much pleasure out of the being punished for the horrible things he did as
he would have
doing the
done.
horrible things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Because Lucifer's effectively just kind of like picking up a few stragglers, isn't he? He's like, well, hell's closed down. There's just a couple of people here and there that I need to just shimmy on. They're kind of hanging around. Yeah. It's like when a nightclub's closed and there's always those couple of pricks who just won't leave. That's kind of what's happening in hell right now.
He goes around. He starts freeing off or getting rid of anyone else that's still there, and Dreammaster sort of says, well, where has everyone gone? And Lucifer's just like, I don't know, don't care.
Yep.
Just
They're
out
not
of
here anymore. Yep. They're somewhere else, which probably isn't a good thing, but they're not here because, not my problem anymore.
Yeah. So he sort of says that, the dead might go back to where they came. They might go to the abyss. They might go to, I can't remember what it's called. The in between heaven and hell. The one in the middle.
Limbo?
Yes, limbo. That's the one. I do, you know it. But just don't care.
I was trying to think of how to do a limbo dance as well when I was doing it, but I just don't have that in my locker anymore. I'm too old for that shit, as Murtaugh once told me.
So he goes around, he locks the gates, and hands Dream the keys to an empty
There's a
hell.
ceremonial part there as well, though, isn't there, where he says like, "Cut off my wings," doesn't he? Because like he is a fallen angel, and he has retained his wings, albeit being like kind of the personification of a devil or whatever at this point. But it's almost intimate, isn't it? Like Lucifer's doing this, and Dream had gone here to get Nada to undo one of his probably many wrongs, but the wrong that he really wants to undo, expecting this conflict with Lucifer, and instead you get this conversation between two let's go higher beings, and a degree of honesty there, and yeah, you get this kind of what feels a little bit like a cathartic moment for Lucifer to go, and kind of the last thing I need to do to release myself from this bond is give up my link to here and me being an angel and heaven. I'll use the term heaven for that. I know we use different terms throughout this book for heaven, but and dream. That's over to you. I'm kind of giving you the responsibility of freeing me from this burden. P.S. Here's the responsibility of being in charge of the key. Hell is now yours. Do with it what
Hell's
you will.
yours. Take my wings. I'm out.
And P.S. I don't know what happened to that Nada girl you come down here for, which I think is a really, and of course it goes on in the story. You know, it's not, but I think such a great part of the story of you come into this issue, and I think traditional sort of comic book stories, but even movie stories, this is and TV. This is the fight episode, isn't it?
Mm.
It's like, oh, we're gonna get the fight. We're gonna get the fight, and it totally flips your expectations. Where it goes, no, there isn't going to be a fight, and such an amazing way. But even within that, I think it also flips your expectations of going, oh, and P.S. that thing that's really important to you means nothing to me. I cared so little about it that offhandedly, I don't know.
Yeah.
Right. So your whole purpose for coming here is nothing at this point, and it means nothing to me. Lucifer's an absolute superstar in this. I quite liked what we saw of Lucifer before, but in this issue, there is a Lucifer series that comes later on. Mike Carey writes it, and I've often heard good things about it, but I said I'll never read it until I've read Sandman. I can't wait to get to that after reading this issue. I cannot wait to see more of Lucifer.
Yeah, it's just, as you say, you go in expecting this is going to be some sort of massive all of hell versus dream, big old epic fight, and it's just a conversation between, as you say, between two deities.
Yeah.
And you go, oh, it's going to be an opening climax, but it really isn't. It just sort of emphasizes even more that level of, yeah, you think that everything's that important. It's not.
Well, and
Yeah.
two of the major strengths that I've found in this Sandman run, and Neil Gaiman's writing in this Sandman run, and Neil Gaiman's writing in general, is I think he's got an amazing way of bringing you into a whole world, a whole universe, and of course some of this plays off of deities and pantheons that we already have some familiarity with, but making a massive amount of information, backstory, future story accessible to you. In the other area where I think he excels equally as well is his dialogue. I think his character interactions, we said it with the family meal, let's say, but going back into other volumes, just like the interaction with Hob in that first in our first introduction to the two of them, and to see him kind of going from aloof to comfortable and things like that. So much of his story is delivered with dialogue, so you don't necessarily, and we said earlier about the art, some of the art in this is fantastic, some of the sort of designs that go on in the background is fantastic, but it's not reliant on what I would say overly over action scenes or flashiness or anything like that. It delivers those beats that we would, that thrill that we might have got from the explosion. We get it from an explosion in a conversation rather than a gas tank going up in the background. And yeah, it's a real master of the craft, and not the only time in this collected edition, but one of the great times in this collected edition where so I mean, ultimately, if you look at the fight, I come out of this issue going, there was no fight except for Lucifer won the fight.
Yeah.
Because you could kind of go, well, Lucifer quit. Like, Lucifer ran away. No, Lucifer didn't. Lucifer went, I'm not really that bothered about any of this stuff. And actually, the way for me to beat you and to destroy you is to close down hell, a thing I know that will have massive repercussions and will cause you lots of bother. Here you go, over to you. So almost
You deal with it.
yeah, Bruce Lee, isn't it? It's the art of
Yeah.
fighting without fighting. Again, another reason, and what you'd expect from a Lucifer, someone who is the ultimate trickster, I guess. Although we'll get onto another trickster in a minute, but the ultimate trickster, the person who is as devious as can be cruel. You know, it's not all about like brutality and things like that. You know, he is like kind of a cut above, and yeah, like this is the ultimate show for me of going. I'm going to get what I want in both counts here. I'm a bit bored of doing this anyway. Like this doesn't really fit me anymore. So I'm going to use this to get what I want, whilst also probably potentially destroying you and winning this fight.
Yeah. So we then go to the next issue where we are introduced to Odin
Yeah,
with added Loki and Thor as they want to take on Hell, as the rumors are going around that Hell is now free.
this ain't your MCU Loki and Thor, is it?
No. Dream speaks to Death and tells him that the dead are going to be coming back to Earth.
I love this conversation. It kind of I summed it up in my brain of him. Let's pretend that he's picked up his mobile phone to his sister and he's gone. Do you know last time when I needed help, I didn't ask you, and so this time I need help. I'm going to ask you because this has happened. And her pretty much going, "What do you expect me to do about it?" And no shit, Sherlock, and hanging up on him. Like because I mean that's not in a mean way, but like ultimately she's going, "Yeah, I know." I deal with all this stuff and I'm having to deal with it now. I don't know how to fix this.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Cheers for that. I will have to try and do with what I can. We see that Azazel has Nada and wants to trade.
Dirty, filthy demon.
Wants to trade so he can have Hell for himself.
He's also got in tow, hasn't he? He's got oh god, I'm blanking on his name. I will look it up in a minute. Coronazon,
Yes.
the demon who had who's
Taken
previously
his helm.
appeared. Yeah, because he was the one who stole his helm. So like he was very much encompassed in the Hell story before.
And we find out that there are plenty of people wanting the Hell realm as they all make their way to the Dream realm.
Yeah.
So we have Anubis, son of Ungazang, Shivery Jemmy, Duma and Remel, and Lord Kinderskin.
It's quite I mean, we actually kind of see some others in wide angle shots later on, but obviously you can only focus on so many, but I loved it. So you've got like Asgardians, haven't you? So you've got Norse gods, you've got two angels who are kind of, I'm sure there's been movie plots where two angels have to go down and sort some stuff out. Yeah, you've got demons from hell, you've got fairies involved, you have like sort of Chinese or Oriental pantheons of gods. You've got
Egyptian old gods.
yeah. So in that kind of playing in belief systems, but it's not just heaven and hell. You know, it's integrating what was more culturally specific pantheons of gods and what I think we probably consider a bit more like the fairy tale versions of it as well. And I really liked how they've used this story and this mechanism to kind of go, all of these exist. They exist hand in hand. And of course, we get to sort of see the interactions of it. And more comes of this in the next issue, but we get to see some of the reasoning as to why they want hell and some of the bargaining tools, as you say, Nada being a very specific one, some of the bargaining tools they may have to be able to gain hell for themselves.
Yeah, I love this with just the idea, as you say, like everything is all together. So it's
Yeah.
not like, oh, this is the only real religion, so fuck the rest of it. It's like, no,
Yeah. And it wasn't even
they're
like,
as
oh, come
real
on.
as they are.
Yeah, these ones are a little bit more sensible than those, and I think that's why I quite like the inclusion of the fairies, which obviously we saw in the Midsummer Night's Dream one. So we've already got
Yeah.
them in the story so far as having a grand importance, but kind of not going, oh yeah, the fairies are over there, because fairies aren't real, are they? But these things are. I thought it was nice that they were given equal billing, and in some cases, I think some of them got a bit of a higher footing, and right the way to the idea of order and chaos. So I guess those conceptual gods rather than gods that people tend to specifically worship. So yeah, you had was it Shivering Jemmy who chaos kind of goes, send her down, she'll be all right, and she has a little conversation with herself. Doesn't seem quite hinged, but it's chaos, isn't it? And by the same token, you had order, and I kind of go, yep. So it's not just pantheons that we recognise, pantheons that maybe we don't recognise, but maybe have a small knowledge of. But much like the Endless are conceptual deities as well.
Yeah. This is where we take a slight break from the proceedings of.
Oh yeah,
the
so I was just going to say
negotiations of
before we
hell.
do, they do kind of all turn up, and he kind of goes, right, we're going to have a lovely do.
You could all
Like
come and have
almost we'll
dinner.
relax. Yeah, we'll relax for the evening. There'll be a bit of entertainment, but there won't be any decision, and we can have some conversations, but there won't be any decision till a later date. And yeah, as you say, like then we get what we said earlier about how we're coming to learn Gaiman style, or certainly Gaiman Sandman style. That's where we then get to transition to what is now our traditional thing of having at least one spin-off story that I think could be read as a single issue, but also is integrally part of this story. So it works within it. Said earlier about 31 bloody absolute carnage spin-offs, or however many spin-offs it was. If this had been released as a spin-off singular issue, and that's part of the series, but if this is a singular spin-off, you'd have gone, yeah, like I could have lived without it, but I really want it because it does flesh out the story, and it's just a brilliant story.
Yeah. So we meet the young lad, Charles Rowland, at the school of St. Hilary's, who has the unenviable task of being the only one at the school over the school holidays because his dad, as this was 1990, is in Kuwait, and that point would have been at war with Saddam Hussein.
And again, very
Um,
Gaiman-esque, isn't it? To kind
to
of
real
you
world
could have
tie-in.
easily done like he's a kid at a boarding school, and his parents are off doing whatever, off skiing or whatever, but to kind of tie that into real world events, and his dad's a prisoner as well, isn't he? Like he's a prisoner in Kuwait, and yeah, I just like those touches. I think some people could critique it for kind of going, it sets it in a certain time. There's no, you can't. I mean, I guess when we get to this in the TV show, if they do this storyline in a TV show, but kind of fast forward a few more wars, or a father can be a prisoner for another reason now, but yeah, it
Yeah.
certainly does slap bang this comic into the time that it was actually written.
Yeah, but again, it is something that we have seen throughout. With
Yeah.
isn't it was the very beginning when Dream was still in the ball.
Oh yeah.
The
Yeah.
one of the guards was reading the Sun. That was the Freddie Starr at my hamster
Yeah.
issue.
Well,
of
and I
when
mean,
the Sun.
this series does outright kind of say certain dates, doesn't it? And I guess it
Yeah.
has to, because one of the big conceits early doors is having to show that passage of time that he was held captive for. But yeah, I know that sometimes people, or certainly in modern comic books, they seem to try and avoid real time events. Just I think maybe for fear that like you put that in an audience that goes, I wasn't even born then. Why would I read this? It's almost slapping him in the face. But I think it's better off for it. I think
Yeah.
it adds in a story wrinkle that makes sense and makes it more compelling for me.
And we see that Charles is in the attic with a lad that looks a bit different to everyone else, as if he's maybe come back from the dead.
Yeah, from a different time.
We then see that lots of people have come back from the dead, and we see what has happened to Charles over the last 5 days before we get to where we are when we first meet him. So we see the current head teacher's mum come back from the dead, tells him that
She's an
smoking's
interesting one,
bad.
isn't she? She's an interesting one.
Yep, and has a penchant for telling him what filthy shit his dad was into.
His dad used to do, yeah, yeah. Whilst he's naked.
Yep.
Yeah.
We get.
I feel that maybe his dad wasn't the dirty one in that relationship.
We get the bullies from have come back from like the 18 or like 1918 around that sort of
Yeah,
time.
yes,
They'd then
yeah,
gone
yeah.
off except before they'd gone off to war. So they died
Cheeseman,
in the
Skinner,
Great
and
War.
Barrow.
Yes,
What three absolute bellends.
absolute twats.
Yeah.
The psychopathic head teacher, who I got Pink Floyd The Wall vibes off this head teacher.
Yeah. I think probably like in the writing, but probably especially in the art style, I think that's what they were trying to invoke. But of course, as well, like for us, and this probably has diminished in later generations, but the kind of idea of boarding schools like this were really starting to become less of a thing. And I'm not saying they ever went, but less of a thing. I think they even mention it in here about how over time it had been less about the kids who were probably attached to a military family or a well-to-do family, but ultimately being people who wanted to send their children maybe from other countries to get like this good formal education, things like that, how it's moved on. But for me, this reminded me of when I was a kid growing up watching loads of kind of black and white movies that would have your schoolmaster, your strict schoolmaster, and that would basically be the plot, wouldn't it, of the kids being treated badly by but ratcheted up to 11 for the purpose of this story.
Beaten with a cane.
Yeah.
So we sort of see the terrible arseholiness of the satanic cult that these kids, Barrowman, Cheese, and Skinner, had got themselves into, as they'd killed the lad that our friend Charles was speaking to, and that his body was in a box next to a pentagram in the attic that no one had ever noticed.
Yeah,
Says a lot about that
and
school.
even says it in it, doesn't it? Like he even says, to be honest though, how could you miss it? I don't think anyone looked. So I guess it was kind of that admission of going, I didn't really matter, and I certainly didn't matter to anyone else in this school. Adding that kind of extra sadness to his death because I think he felt worthless, and ultimately probably the repercussions of what happened after he was killed by these twats. Then it almost reinforced that for him. Like he was, who cares? That kid
So-
that no one liked is dead or not here anymore. We won't even bother looking upstairs to see whether he's up there.
Yeah. Charles takes a beating and is left with some terrible injuries and is taken up to the attic, where after a couple of days, he too dies.
Yep.
Death comes to take him, but he says to her, I don't want to go. You can't make
Yep.
me. As a petulant
Which
child.
we've had previously though, haven't we? We have had in Death's other appearances the no, like everything from kind of the pleading, it's not my time, etc., etc. And up until this point, Death has been very definitive on this of going, no, this is your time. You're coming with me. And this time, no.
Death is not so fucked about it because there's more important things going on.
There's
as
big
in,
shit going
i.e.,
down. Yeah.
The dead are coming back to life.
Yeah.
So she's like, whatever, fine, fuck yeah. And Charles and his newfound friend go off on the jollies.
Yeah, there's so like with the and it's Edwin. So with the story of Edwin, like there is that, as I say, that inherent sadness to it of we've all seen bullying stories before, I think we're all aware of that. And the generic parts of that, but I think where this really finds its heart is, as I say, when you find out that after death no one cared, and the same thing ostensibly happens to Charles, but they find each other. You know, like Charles effectively encourages Edwin to leave. Like Edwin had been haunting that attic ever since, and Charles kind of goes, "No, there's a big wide world out there, and let's do it together." And it's just this great moment where, for the first time in his life, Edwin probably finds a true friend. Shame that kind of hell had to close down, death had to be removed from everything, and another person had to die to find it. But there is that bittersweet joy, I think, that comes with those two ultimately finding this pure friendship. And of course, we go back to sort of Charles at the beginning. Charles is sat in that boarding school on his own. He understands that his dad has got a very important job to do, and ultimately this very important job leads to him being a prisoner. But I mean, I do think even then they're kind of layering on the idea that who is there for Charles? No one. You know, even those people who I guess most of us tend to look at and rely on and consider those people who would be there, things like your parents, your family, and things like that. They're not here for him. And you know, at that point, he's the only kid in school. All the other kids have gone home or gone on holiday or whatever. So, yeah, I think it ties itself up in a really nice bow of these two finding each other. I think I'm going to say this for pretty much every issue that we're going to cover on this. I love this issue. I thought it was amazing.
Yeah, it's always that thing that I've noticed with everything we've had so far. But these standalone ones, in so many other people's hands, would be tosh. And you'd be like, why?
What was the
Why-
point of
why are we
that?
having
Yeah,
this?
yeah.
But
Just trying to spin this out for one more issue, or your artist couldn't get his issues done in time, so we're getting a spin-off just to
Yeah.
pad it out a bit. Yeah.
but these just always just give you that look of here's what's going on whilst all this other shit is going on with Dream in the
Yeah.
real world. Yeah, it just shines that light on what is happening and sort of gives it that grounding of, yeah, no, this is real, and this is the effects on the real world happening here
Yeah.
because of what's happening with these gods and deities and the power, these overpowers. Here's the effect on humanity.
And I think a much better way of doing it, isn't it? Because as I said, for me, it has that intimate level of it. So you understand coming off the back of this that the dead are walking the earth, which I guess is the core element. In a
Yeah.
cheaper writer's hand, or in a lesser writer's hand, or even in like I can't be bothered writer's hand, they just go right, fill out a couple of
Zombies.
pages with loads of zombies, or or loads of like ghosts in kind of situations that that you wouldn't necessarily expect them to. Whereas this goes, no, I don't need to go for the grandeur of that. I'll go to the grandeur of storytelling and like the human condition. Let's tell something about characters and how they might feel. I said earlier about I can't wait to come back to more Lucifer because there's a singular or there's a solo series for Lucifer. I don't know whether we get these characters again in Sandman. However, there is a Vertigo annual run called The Children's Crusade where they appear again, and also there are some latterly, I think, in some of the more modern stuff since Gaiman let people play in the universe again. These characters are revisited, and they are the Dead Boy Detectives. And you say that, and you say the term Dead Boy Detectives, take my money, I'm in. And the only last thing I wanted to say about them, and I have no idea whether this has any connectivity whatsoever, but I couldn't help but get fixated on the fact that they were Charles and Eddie, and I kept then in my head singing "Would I Lie to You" over and over again, the amazing Charles and Eddie song.
And that's a song I haven't thought about in a very long time.
Well, ready for it to
guarantee
take over
that's
your
gonna-
life from this point onwards, yeah.
That's going to be an earworm for the rest of the day.
Because I thought of nothing else since reading this issue.
Yeah, it's in the back of my head right now. Okay.
Yeah, for anyone watching who has never listened to "Will I Lie to You" by Charles and Eddie, go and get it. You're in for a treat.
Oh, last time I had a song like that stuck in my head, it was Lido Shuffle. And that was in there for a week.
No, as I
So
said, like
you will be getting cursed in the messages.
I'll take it. I'll take it. I didn't write it. Neil Gaiman did this to you, not me. He chose Charles and Eddie for a reason, and I think that's his reason. I couldn't remember when it came out. I haven't actually googled it. In fact, if you want to start going on to the next issue, I'm going to Google to see when I Lied to You come out and see whether there's any chance that there's a connectivity.
So we are back with Dream in issue 26 as we are back in the realm. And
It's party time.
Kaluchun turns up as part of the fairy team, and they're all treated to a nice meal. Kane has a magic show, and I love his retort in this of if you enjoyed it, tell your friends. If you didn't, I hope you'll get throat cancer and die.
It's very much as well like very Kane, wasn't it though? Because his magic show is sawing Abel in half and turning him into sausages. So there's no magic whatsoever. It's just dickery and brutality yet again. In bad news, Would I Lie to You by Charles and Eddie actually come out in 1992. So now I'm going down the lines of rather than Gaiman doing that they were both big Sandman fans, and that's why they named themselves Charles and Eddie.
So we then see all who seek hell having a meeting with Dream. They all barter and bribe with different things and different reasons why they should have.
Yeah, I mean they've kind of said, haven't they? I mean, Dream sort of said, look, here you're going to have a meal, you're going to have your performance, and like I kind of want you to relax, and we can have conversations later this evening, stroke tomorrow when I make my decision about this. But this is your chance to spend. But none of them listen, do they? They all kind of surreptitiously kind of slide up to him and go, "Oh, I need to speak to you later," or ultimately some of them just going, "I'm not going to wait till later. I'm going to tell you what I want, why I want it, why I don't want it at this point." And I guess like very much feels real, doesn't it? Like regardless of the fantastical situation, but it feels like how I imagine it would be if you went into a room and you had something that everyone in that room wanted, and you said, "Look, here are the rules we're going to play by." You know that lots of people aren't going to play by those rules and try to curry your favor or threaten, cajole, or whatever terminology fits what you're doing at the time. But yeah, it felt very, considering these are gods, demons, angels, it just brings them back into something that's more relative to how you think humans would have reacted in this situation, but with just, I guess, more ridiculously large things to offer or bigger threats.
Yeah. What I do love in this is obviously this is where we get to see much more than just like when they were first being met and stuff. Each individual font and each individual sort of speech thing that we did with when they had the family meal for each of the gods, and it all fits perfectly. And you get things like there's clearly history between them all as well with Dream, because you get the Anubis saying that he preferred Dream when he was.
It's Bast, isn't it? It's the cat. Yeah. So the lass who's hanging, or the lass, the female god that is with Anubis, so another Egyptian one. But yeah, it's Bast because she is a cat woman, effectively, or a cat god, isn't she? And yeah, she does that great line of going, "I much preferred you when you were a cat."
Yeah, it's just all that sort of little bits of. There is clearly history with Dream and all of them, and they all have sort of different names for him as well, and it just it takes how Dream as a concept is in their worlds as much as they can be something in Dream's world, and the whole Sandman universe thing.
There's kind of an interreliance, isn't there? And there's a seesaw. It feels like for a lot of this series so far, and specifically this part of the story where you go, neither of them are probably more powerful than the others inherently, or there being a particular swing either way. Situation will often depend that, or where they are at the time, which we'll come back to in a later issue. But they are all mega powerful beings who could potentially fundamentally damage each other permanently. But a lot of this, and I'll come back to that reliance on how they speak to each other, is that so much of this stuff has to be resolved in speech, because it might be a massively destructive stalemate if they ever tried to physically go against each other.
Yeah.
And so that's almost, I guess, to a degree, I'd probably describe it as nuclear. So effectively, everyone has a nuclear missile's worth of power there, but they know that if they probably fired their missiles, everyone's going to fire and they all lose. So quite often, they have to settle these by speaking to each other, outwitting each other, or proving why it's more beneficial for it to go one way or the other.
Yeah.
Or I guess, as I say, the more negative side of it, of the bribery, corruption route of trying to get someone to do something because you offer them something preferable.
Yeah. So we go into the next issue.
Oh, before
Where-
we go on,
Oh,
I wanted
yes.
to stop for a minute here. So throughout this issue, as you say, we basically get most of the people that we've seen so far kind of make Dream an offer. They vary from like, obviously the demons sort of say, we'll give you Nada back. His whole purpose for going to hell, the whole kind of trigger for this storyline. You get Bass saying that she knows the location of the final endless brother. I'm pretty sure they do say brother
Yeah.
in this. That has gone away, and she's the only person who knows where the last member of the family is. She will give that information. The fairies, theirs is very much cyclically. They have to almost sacrifice themselves, don't they, to hell? And so
Yeah.
by giving them control of hell, or no one control of hell, which is one of the things they posit, that they'd never have to go through this. The Asgardians are Odin, and I thought Odin was a real shining star for me throughout this story. But Odin talks about how
It's to
ultimately
prevent
Ragnarok, yeah, and Ragnarok's tied to something with him and Lucifer, so and hell. So without a hell, or with him in charge of hell, this thing that has always confounded him and worried him, he's all powerful, all seeing, all knowing, but he's never been able to get rid of this fixation of death, and the death of all of the people under his responsibility, and this would free him from that. Order kind of goes with a bit of a, we've got some stuff you might like, and then when he says no, like, they flip the card and go, oh, I kind of knew you'd say no, but we wouldn't be happy if you didn't. My favourite one being Chaos, who Chaos just goes, I haven't got anything, we'll just come down here and fight you.
Yeah.
We'll just make your life a misery if you don't give it to us. Like, we're not gonna do anything but that. It's not even necessarily a direct threat of going, if you don't do it for us, we'll kill you. It's like, you're gonna pick someone, and if it ain't us, we'll never forget. We'll come back and get you. And like, as I say, there's lots of things off with it. So the only reason why I wanted to stop here for a second is, obviously we know what comes next, and one of the things that's key to say here is the angels haven't offered anything. Like, all the way through this story, they mention it, don't they, about how amazing angels are because their feet never touch the ground, they're always floating above the ground, and they're kind of saying about how they observe. However, what would you have done at this point if you are Dream? Was there any of those options that you were given, the one that you think is the one he should have taken, or that was most compelling, or would you still be at this stage kind of going, I've either got a plan of my own or I'm waiting for another option? But I just wondered, like, whether you felt like any of them were the one,
See,
or any of the groups
only-
should have got hell over the others.
it's the only ones
whichever
that
way
I
you wanna
was,
look at it.
the only ones I was looking at going, I could see why or how they could go that way was obviously Odin with Ragnarok, because in theory Ragnarok is complete end of everything. So yeah, if Dream is, because obviously he's called like the Shadow Walker, and it has is part of their mythos as well.
Yeah,
That
I've always been about.
that could end up causing death to everyone. Or does he go to with the demons to get Nada? As this whole purpose of going down there was to free Nada.
Sorry, just just very quickly as well on the demons, some excellent demon backstabbery as well, isn't there? So during this story, they actually one of the demons, Spider Demon, can't remember the name, cocoons up Chronozon, and that's also part of their offer, isn't it? Of going,
Yeah.
you
And
can
you
have
can
the
fuck
person
him
you come
up.
to hell back, and you can have him as well, that person who stole your helmet and was a dick to you once before. So yeah, I thought, like, again, nice touch of adding in demon twattery in there.
Yeah. Yeah, the idea of finding details of the missing brother was never one for me, so I didn't ever think that
You
Mest was.
heartless bastard.
Well, it's already been said, like earlier on in the series, though, that he's safe. He just doesn't want to be found, so he's not in danger. So I don't have that.
Heartless.
I need to know where my brother is because it's like, no, he's fine. You know, he's
It's
you
over
know,
there.
He's over there doing whatever it is that he does. Part obviously, he FA with Air Balloon, and the idea of chaos. Just wanting it just cause was never going to get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, as I said, I was pretty sure it'd be either the Asgardians or the demons would get it at this point.
I meant to say, and I forgot about the Japanese one. I quite like their one because they actually lean into it, don't they? And sort of say, do you know what? We're probably one of the pantheons that has lost. I'm going to say fashionable. Don't know whether that counts in the world of gods, but let's go with fashionable. But what we've kind of done is we've expanded. So we've spent our time kind of scooping up gods from other things, and we're of an expansive nature. So their offer was whatever price you want, we'll pay it, wasn't it? Like,
Yeah.
which I thought was a really good one in there. I mean, the thing I liked about it is we've seen earlier in this series that probably the obvious answer isn't going to be the answer. So we said when they go to fight in hell, that you find out there is no fight, and I think kind of layering on there, these are the decisions and these are the options you've got, plus some you haven't seen yet. I felt like we weren't going to get one of these, but I as an exercise, I quite liked it because I just quite liked how they all differed. You know, as you say, with the I guess with both the fairies and the Asgardians, there was this lean into the compassionate side of Dream, to save suffering of some other people. You could go this road. With the demons, you've got the base level of revenge, but more so this was your sole purpose, was to kind of make up for this mistake. It almost felt like the easiest offer to take, didn't it? Because it was like, that's why you went there. And effectively, what will really change at this point? There will now just be another demon in charge of hell, which there was one before anyway, and you get what you want out of the deal. Chaos just being chaotic, order being orderly, but the idea of the brother. See, I thought this was a massively compelling one of this. The lost member of the family that you don't know if he's all right. I guess you're hoping he's all right, but you'd want to know where they are. And I think they all in their own unique way had massively compelling selling points and massively compelling to what Dream wanted or the big facets that we've seen in Dream's character. But they all had a downside as well, didn't they? There was no one who I felt was offering that one that didn't have a flaw. For every single one of these. And one of the big flaws is, so I look at Asgard and the fairies and I go, okay, you pick Asgard, well, the fairies are going to suffer. You pick the fairies, Asgard will suffer. So there's problematic bit there. And of course that goes into everything. I in my mind, and at the end of the issue, he kind of almost does this. I was leaning towards none of them, but I was leaning towards none of them and no one has hell. It actually does cease to exist, and I think you couldn't do this in the comic because then you'd spend the rest of the series sort of dealing with this. But the idea of going, you remove that concept of hell and the dead walk the earth like they do or walk wherever they walk and things like that, because it was too powerful and problematic to hand off to any individual one of those parties. It would come with its individual problem. And I also spent a lot of time at the end of this issue going, I love you, Lucifer, for this. God, clip that bit. But, that's, we talked earlier about how he wins the fight. He puts him in almost an impossible situation. And I think the end of this issue for me went bang. There's Lucifer's win.
Yeah.
There is no right answer here. No matter what he does, it will go wrong, and it will be on his head. Be it.
Yeah. So going to the next one, we hear from Ramel, who relays the voice of the Creator, and explains that obviously hell is meant to be a reflection of heaven, or the Silver City, as they term it here. So Dream gives hell to the angels.
Well, you're missing a lovely bit there, aren't you? And for me, I thought of it as the Return of the Jedi, when C-3PO is translating the message from R2-D2 that Luke has to Jabba, where it's like, and I offer you these two droids, and he goes, what? And you have that moment here, don't you, where through them God speaks and God says, yeah, give it to these guys. And you know, there is a real like beautifully written moment in there of him having to pass that to kind of go, well, hang on a minute. Hell's there for the rebellious, the fallen, the bad angels. We've done nothing wrong. We've never done anything wrong. How dare you send us down here to barter for this, but ultimately say that we've got to go to the really horrible place.
We've got to
And
manage
of course,
it.
yeah, but I mean, you know, through the conversation, like he kind of a conversation with himself, I would say more than anything else. He
Yeah.
works his way through it. But I just thought, what a great bit of writing. You know, like we talk about our belief systems, whatever it may be, or lack of belief systems, if there is the case. And I think if you point at any religion, but let's go with this one here, like which is your more representation of Christianity or Catholicism. And you go, it's really sometimes easy for someone who doesn't believe in that to point at stuff and go, look, there's fatal flaws here. This is where it doesn't work. And I thought, what a smart piece of writing to kind of go, this seems like a really horrible thing for God to do. But to then actually pull that back and go, like in that one-sided conversation of him always going, oh yeah, but actually it's probably the best thing for everyone else
Yeah.
for God to do. This does take it out of the hands of these warring factions and things like that, and it is supposed to be there to serve a purpose. Bad way of saying it, but sucks to be you, but you're going to have to take the hit for this one. But that's what we're here for. We're here to
Yeah.
take the hit for this stuff. And I thought it was as I say, a very interesting, very smart way to talk about some of those religious facets that I don't feel in a book that is touching on so many different pantheons of gods. You tend to get done as well as I think got done in this passage.
Yeah. See, at the point when he's been given, they've been given hell. Azrael
Give him hell.
sort of goes, well, fine.
A lot of them aren't happy about it, are they? And like,
No.
you know, there's a bit of what? It's not like, oh, brilliant, yeah, makes sense. Give it to the angels. It's a bit like, well, what about us? You know, what about
We
our
wanted
doing?
it.
Yeah,
And Azrael challenges Dream that if he, can free Nada and get the other guy as well, then he's free to have them. So Dream goes into Azrael.
yeah. It's kind of like for the purpose of the art in here, for anyone who hasn't seen it, it's like he's a mouth, isn't he? Like,
Yeah.
but within it, it's like a visage of like universes and stuff like that. But he's a gaping maw. So yeah. And Sandman doesn't mess around, does he? Like when that challenge is thrown out, he just jumps straight in, doesn't he? So he jumps inside Azazel. Azazel, however you pronounce it.
Gets the demon that was Helm Stealer, but he isn't going to torture him or kill him. He just takes him out, tells him that he's freed him, and then goes and finds Nadia.
That does it
And-
quite easily as well, doesn't it? And I quite
Yeah.
like that. Again, this is something we've seen in we talked earlier about the ultimate battles, the confrontations, and things like that. And I imagine there'll be some in here, but I think he keys into this on this, doesn't he? Like he almost goes, "Yeah, this was easy for me. Possibly wouldn't have been easy on another day, but you're in my realm.
Yeah.
I'm all powerful in my realm. Everything kind of conforms to my will, including you when you're in my realm. So this was never a challenge for me, but acknowledges that possibly would have been a challenge if it had been anywhere else."
And so Azil tries to trap him, but then Dream goes full Dream Warrior and puts him basically in a snow globe, going, "You're in my realm now, bitch."
Had my second musical moment at this point when uh, Christina Aguilera song "Genie in a Bottle," but for some reason I kept singing "I'm a demon in a bottle, baby" after this. Yeah.
But yeah,
It was.
so
It hasn't been a good week for me in music from that regard. This has hurt me badly. This series for what I've been listening to.
and then as the rest of the gods and pantheons leave, they all have their quick goodbyes with Dream as he sees them all out one at a time as they all go back to their own realms.
It's quite nicely done as well, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
there's no. I mean, even the ones where there's some contentiousness around it, like Dream is quite open, kind of going. For me, this seemed like the best and the only decision. Like it wasn't a judgment against you as such. This was, and there was a bit of a lean into, and psst, the creator said it. Fuck up. But
Yeah.
I think it was almost his way of kind of going. Had an impossible decision until someone made it a possible decision. I went with
Yeah.
that. If you don't like it, come and see me at another time. We can do something with it. But business is concluded for now.
And also, you see some of them going, sort of saying in the background, that, well, we didn't actually have what we said we had as part of our
Yeah.
bartering. Because
Yeah.
it's like, Jemmy sort of goes, I wasn't going to do
Oh, that one I
anything."
loved. Yeah, that one I loved.
We
Where
weren't,
she
we
went,
weren't
"Oh,
really going to do anything at all.
just
Here, have a
joshing
balloon."
chaos, aren't we? Yeah, have a balloon. Yeah, and then taking time to criticize Order for coming with a cardboard box and goes, "Who wants a cardboard box? I've got a balloon."
And
Yeah, and another little superstar for me in this series. Like, oh, sorry, in this storyline, really stood out for me as a character. I don't think I could read a series about them because it would be too chaotic. But I certainly hope to see again in either this series or some of the latterly written Sandman material.
yeah, and Besh sort of going, actually, we didn't know shit about where his brother was. We were
Yeah.
blagging.
No one tell him. No one tell him. It was a bluff the whole time.
So yeah, so that concludes that. And then
And again, like I think when you look at this issue, we said earlier the fight issue, the go into hell, and it subverts your expectations. And I think when you come into this, to a degree, this also subverts your expectations. It spent a whole issue outlining, and I think in a fantastic way outlining what the possible alternatives are. To introduce a different alternative and one that didn't come out of the blue, like I don't think it's like a Deus Ex Machina or anything like that. Those characters are there, but I think you could have been forgiven for coming into to going on whichever one he picks, it's going to kick off. But
Yeah.
then you introduce one where it really doesn't instantaneously kick off. There's probably some animosities that are built for further stories down the line, and not for the first time Sandman has done this, and you could even argue it's becoming a bit of a trope in its own series now, but does it so well and so smartly that I feel like fully satisfied. I don't feel like I missed anything. I don't feel like I didn't get the argument I should have got. I felt like I got the story I should have got because it's brilliant.
Yeah. So to finish with the the epilogue, we see that the damned return to hell. Dream and Nada finally have some time together, and they meet. He apologizes, or I say, he tries to apologize in his overly smug, god tier way that we've seen Dream do a few times so far.
Yeah.
in our time with him, and then Nada sort of basically points out, do you actually mean this, or are you just thinking you should say it? And puts in the offer of, I'm not going to stay here with you. You can come with me, but I know you won't.
Yeah. They revisit
So
the discussion
we'll
that
be on our
they
way.
had years ago, but under different circumstances. Like the years ago, she didn't want to stay with him because other pantheons of gods were killing her people, for the
Yeah.
fact that there was this relationship there. So that was the thing that made her want to not be with him. Whereas now, fast forward, she still doesn't necessarily want to be there, but is probably considerative of the fact that if he was willing to sacrifice his world to come and spend time with her, maybe they could break through it. But when you said about they have that conversation about it and the apology, I go back to what I said a long, long time ago in this podcast now about the gaming strengths being the dialogue. What an amazing, considering like the stakes and what has happened, what an amazing dialogue string in there. I think you're right. Like his godly ego, but I would actually lead into like the man side of his ego very much is sort of kind of sorry, get over it.
Yeah.
And she's like no way, and he's angry at the sincerity of the apology, but angry at that idea that a simple apology might be enough, like for what he did an apology isn't enough. But then where the dialogue I think sparkles for me is that they do come to a large degree of resolution, because I think you see that realization in him of going, no, sorry isn't enough, but sorry is about all I can offer, because I can't
Yeah.
undo what I did, and I really, really am sorry. Like, not in
Yeah.
a child, I really, really am sorry, but he really is sorry. And her going, yeah, and now I need to acknowledge that actually there's probably nothing you could ever do that would make up for that. However, I do appreciate that you are sorry, and let's move forward from here.
Yeah. We see that Susune Onomokyo hasn't left yet,
No,
but it turns out it's not him. It's actually Loki being a trickster,
that cheeky little trickster.
because Loki doesn't want to go back into the cave in the center of Earth.
Yeah, we didn't mention this when we said about the intro of our Ice Guardians, but we were introduced to Loki, who had been in a cave for thousands of years, with a snake, effectively
Dripping
spewing venom onto him, which is very, very painful. And there he would remain forever until a part of Asgardian law, ultimately the head towards Ragnarok, happens. So when the Hell story resolves, Thor gets his drunken oath moment and kind of doinks what we think is Loki out, to be taken back to that same pit to suffer until Ragnarok ultimately plays out.
And Dream says that he will help Loki so he doesn't have to go back into the misery that he was beforehand.
Yeah.
We see the fairies are still there, and that the female fairy was part of the bargaining.
Yeah. Nuala was gonna was basically, I don't know, it almost felt like kind of pimping Cleracan out, of going, she's part of the deal, you get her as well. But even though the deal wasn't happening, like it's still like, well, she's still part of the deal. She's staying here, isn't she?
She's staying here because we can't go back to Mother with
Yeah.
her.
Yeah, it was a
Um,
gift, and we're not taking that gift back.
However much we know you don't want that 17th toaster. No, you have to keep it.
You're having it, yeah. That could
'Cause
be
we
the
don't
toilet
want it
toaster.
Nada is reborn into the living.
An infant in Hong Kong, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, so basically getting a second chance at a life, as I guess as penance for making her spend such a 10,000 plus years suffering in hell.
And we also see that Loki is in Perth, Western Australia, on a beach.
Lucifer.
Is it Lucifer? I thought it was Loki.
No, it's Lucifer.
Lucifer's on the beach,
Yeah.
enjoying the sun.
Meets a dude, doesn't he? Who kind of talks
Yeah.
about how he'd lost his wife and his son, and says that as much as he's had a cruel, horrible existence, the reason why he goes to the beach every day is that every single day the sunset looks different. And then again, coming back to the creator or God, for the purpose of this, that how can God be so wrong if he can create something so beautiful that will create a different sunset every single day? And then you get Lucifer kind of, I'm not going to say 100% committing to that, but kind of going, yeah, you might be right actually. Like that is pretty amazing, isn't it?
So, yeah, so that is Seasons of the Mist.
Well, and I was just going to pick up as well. Like we do see the angels now running hell, and you see this idea that the angels are going to slightly look at hell differently. And rather than it being what had been established earlier of someone who's done something wrong going there to get punishment that they might enjoy, that actually they will still punish people, but that punishment should be attempts to redeem them. And then there's just a great, and this leans, and this is like, like in the Dante's Inferno, he's there's a lot of borrowing from that, but I love that it kind of goes this way of going, and do you know what, that makes their suffering worse because they're now not able to drive that pleasure that they thought they'd get out of this. So no longer is it penance that they're enjoying, but it's penance that leads to them to potentially a better road. And yeah, I just thought what a beautiful kind of full stop on that to kind of go, things have changed, but in some ways better, but in some ways worse.
Yeah.
And like Destiny kind of goes, this chapter of the book is over, doesn't he? Or this chapter of the book is over for Dream. But yeah, sorry. The end.
So again, obviously we've how much we've waxed on about this so far, just going through the individual issues. Terrible trade in it. It's awful.
Bin it. They never read this. Put it on the don't buy, don't read pile. I said to you right at the beginning, like it feels like we've been around for more than 28 issues. It feels like, and the amount that we've talked about this one, and partially, I don't think even like sort of specifically, a lot of that discussion is about plot points, i.e. the actual what happens. You can deliver some of that quite quickly. I think the conversation and the interesting thing for me is coming about talking about those plot points. And I think that's why, here's my justification for why this episode will run so long, is that there's so much content in here and there's so much of interest. And I think this is what makes this trade, and I'm going to focus on this trade specifically, but I will say this for the last three as well. But that's what makes this such a fantastic piece of work, is that it's layers upon layers upon layers upon layers. There's a story there that you could just follow that goes A, B, C, D, E. Now, sometimes the A to the B is a little bit different than what you might get somewhere else, but it's still A to B to C to D to E, littering loads of kind of promises and teases for stuff that might be down the road. But even if you ignore all that, the expansion of character, the expansion of the universe, and the kind of sheer weight of ideas that are being dropped into this on every single panel, on every single page, that's why it feels like this isn't 8 issues. It feels like you're getting almost a series in one go here.
It's the thing is that we've obviously read 28 issues so far, and this could have been in lesser writer's hands, or in a different style of comics. So if it's like a Superman or a Batman or Avengers, something like that, this could have been 50, 60, 70 issues worth of stuff.
Yeah.
And we'd be dragging through it going, oh my God, when's it going to end? But I'm like, I want more. I don't want to wait as long as we did for between the next Sandman one and stuff. Because I'm like, I need more.
I think I'm with you on that though. So we'll get that signed in to get that next one done sooner. Like, not such a gap, because I'm absolutely with you. I can't wait to read more.
Yeah, and that's the thing with this is I did the first 3 issues sort of really sort of back to back, and I was like, I'll running through them, and then the better half wanted to go and do something. I was like, but I want to
do it yourself. I'm not going out. Yeah,
fine.
You're on your own.
But as soon as we got back, I was straight back on it because I wanted to carry on. These really do just grab
it was a
you.
beautiful side by side tonic for how much I was struggling with Absolute Carnage towards you. And I said earlier, not because Absolute Carnage is bad, but it's just I felt all those issues towards the end. Whereas I was like, and probably might be why it compared, certainly not so, because I went, this feels like it had more content in it in 8 issues than you got in 31 issues in that. One of the things you said about wanting more, I mean, yeah, I want to read more of this straight away, but I think one of the great strengths of it for me is I come out of here wanting a Dead Boy Detectives solo series, I guess it wouldn't be solo series. There's two of them, but a Dead Boy Detectives series. I wanted a Lucifer series. I want to know more about Gaiman's version of the Asgardian pantheon here. I want at least a Shivering Jemmy one shot. I want more of the fairies, and I must admit, after the Midsummer Night's Dream issue, which I loved, but I was kind of like, what a lovely one singular story. I don't need to hear of them ever again. They've gone off into there, but I want more of them. I want more of Anubis and Bast. Uh, so
More
much
death.
that happened. More death, more of all the endless, and it just made me want more of all of this, but not going, but without, but with having a complete story, shall I say? Like, it's not like I
Yeah.
want more because I felt like I wasn't satiated. I got a perfectly brilliant complete story here, but with all of that intrigue and tidbits and interesting characters that make you want to see what they do in other situations.
Yeah, it's that thing. You come out of this going, I will quite happily, even if it's in the rest of like the Sandman story arc as a whole. If we
Yeah,
come back and have a one shot at some point of chaos, or we come back at some point and the dead detectives are back into it somewhere, or
yeah,
we come back and we find out what's been going on with Lucifer, or we come back and see what's going on with Loki and Odin, and you know, you want to see these characters come back in, but at the same point, you sort of know because of how Game has treated us so far on the 28 issues that we've had, if they do, they will come back for a purpose, and it will
yeah.
further
Well,
the story as a whole as well.
I know when we've done some of the solicits, you've often flagged up kind of new Sandman properties or stuff like in the Sandman universe banner, and I've always said that not really interested in it until we finish this
Mm.
because I want to finish this first. But I think I was a bit more reticent on it in you of going, is this going to be a complete story that I wish people wouldn't mess with? But having bits like this, I am now 100% into that now. I am 100% into, oh yeah, I can see that there's so many ideas littered into here that you could never, I'm going to say never pay off all of this, but obviously a lot of this isn't for payoff. You know, there are
Yeah.
characters in here that are not going to be in issue 2000 of this because we know it has a finite bit. And I can't wait to see what other creators do with these ideas and concepts later. And of course, like, I think a lot of the good thing about this is a lot of the follow up stuff is at least run by Neil to say, are you happy with this? Like, I think he's got a quality control over it.
Yeah, so I know. Obviously, he's not writing all of the newer stuff,
It doesn't write any of it, to be fair, but yeah, I think he has
but
an eye over it.
yeah, as I say, I mean, he's like the Farhey of DCU or MCU of sort of. I
Yeah,
read
yeah,
everything, I go yay or nay,
yeah.
and this is allowed or
Well,
no.
you know, I said earlier about like Dead Boy Detectives, which God, like, sign me up. One of the other ones that I think we should get to quite quickly after this, and I think sort of sequentially in release order. I think it doesn't. I think it comes out about 10 years later, but 2003. There's a one shot called Death at Death's Door, and it's drawn in a manga style, but it is what Death was doing during Seasons of Mist. So you get to see what Death was up to. I'm quite interested to get to that after reading this, but I do kind of want to finish this series first because I don't know. It might actually drip into some of the stuff that happens afterwards, I guess, and I don't want
Yeah,
spoilers for what's to come. But yeah, I think that's something to add to our list to pick up. I think when we're done Sandman, I don't think we're done with Sandman, are we? I think when we've done
no.
all of these, I think we'll be coming back for further sort of Sandman stuff.
Well,
As I say, I'm a big fan of jumping onto Lucifer, but I think
you got
very much we'll keep
Constantine
this
as well, and
Sandman material going. I think.
yes. So
Love this, absolutely love this.
yes,
I'm starting to move away from the idea of what one did I like more. I know we done it earlier because I'm finding it harder and harder each volume, because I think subsequent volumes are not only brilliant, but also make me like the preceding volumes even more. Because now that I'm seeing more and more lathered and laid onto it, it makes me appreciate the others even more. But I know this is often considered one of the best of the trades, and if not the best one, and I can see why. Not sure if it's my favourite one, but I think that's because it's such a tight fight between the last three, if I'm honest. So, but yeah, an absolute masterpiece, genius writing, beautiful to look at, and makes me want more and more and more of this universe, these characters.
Yes. So if you have been reading along with us or have read in the past, don't know what you think of
Misty.
Seasons of the Mist. Obviously, again, if you have read that manga death thing, and if it doesn't spoil or don't mention anything that happens later, let us know down there as well. Because if it doesn't, we might jump on that a bit sooner.
I must admit, I know it exists, but I didn't actually look to see if it was on DC Ultra, but I presume it is. But yeah, I just know it exists. So if not, we might have to put our hands in our pockets, mate, and buy something. Boo.
Shame.
Shame.
As always, YouTube things of like, subscribe, ring the bell, you know, all that stuff as
Oh, yeah,
always. And until next time, goodbye.